So Deborah and I have worked together for the last couple of years.
Nearly 3 years now, I think.
We've been through so
much.
We've had children. No. But the thing that I've always enjoyed is just learning more about Arcadia as a brand and the complexities of a high-profile, multi-brand organisation, and that really does stay ahead of many others. So. Deborah implemented Launchpad technology some time ago. We've integrated it with her other technologies, but there's always the reality of how it works, why it works, and why it should work that I think is really enlightening. You know, sometimes you can't completely re-engineer your process and expect the business to accept it, and so it's about working with the tools in a way that's going to help you deliver on your requirements. So, Deborah, just give us a 2 seconds on your role and the span of your responsibility.
Okay, so my job title is Group Resourcing Manager, and I sit in Group, so the Arcadia umbrella, which for those of you who don't know, Arcadia, it's the likes of Topshop, Topman, Wallace, Dorothy Perkins, Burton, BHS obviously is no longer part of the group, and Evans and Outfit, I think I've mentioned them all. So my team recruit all of the graduates for buying, merchandising, digital and finance into the brands. So we sit in Group but face out to the rest of the group.
Excellent.
Is that a good enough synopsis?
It's perfect, Deborah. Thank you very much. I'm just going to bring it a little more Jeremy Paxman-esque now, which is why I'm standing up in vaguely threatening ways. So, Deborah, on how did you like this? I've been practicing this on the platform this morning. I'll have a coffee, thank you. So Deborah, Arcadia are market leading. They're world renowned, and every 15 to 25-year-old wants to work for you. So why does your recruitment process even matter? You could be repulsive and they'll still come.
Yeah, I don't think that would work too well for our sales figures. I think the important thing with us is because we have such a strong consumer brand, we need to make sure that our recruitment processes are airtight. I know it sounds really cliche about the candidate journey, but we have to get it right, because I think obviously, Leslie, those figures, you know, if somebody has a bad experience with us, you know, they might choose to change to shop in Zara, for example, rather than Topshop. So it is paramount that we get the candidate process right. And then I think we've had experiences where candidates have come in, they haven't been successful for one of our graduate positions. We've given them some really constructive feedback, and then they've gone on to get a similar job at a competitor. But I think the nice story is that they wouldn't have got that job without the commitment and the feedback from my team. Yeah. So it's actually a nice news story, and hopefully once they've gone and got their experience, they'll come back to us later in their career.
Yeah. And so every single consumer of your brands will think that they want to work there.
Yes, pretty well. And they'll have a particular brand that they think that they want to work for, which is challenging sometimes when you've got the likes of maybe a Wallace or an Evans and then a Topshop Miss S. So if you're looking at that demographic of a graduate, they're going to want to work for the Topshop and Miss S.
So what's most important when you're assessing who, where, and often guiding them away from the brand they think they fit?
Yeah, I think it's trying to get them more aligned to what's the job they're applying for, and to try and move away from the brand. And I think being Arcadia and the umbrella company, we're trying to attract people that have the mindset that you could start your career in Miss S, for example, and then end up in Wallace or Evans. So I think it's trying to recruit for the role rather than the brand, if that makes sense.
And how do you make sure that your candidates then don't feel duped?
Well, hopefully my recruiters are doing a great job in selling the benefits for the brands, and I think, you know, at some of the smaller brands, career progression will happen a lot faster. So the likes of Wallace, they're a very tight-knit, smaller brand. Topshop is a fast-moving beast. You know, it is so reactive. They're always looking for the most innovative next thing that's happening. And I think sometimes people will get lost in that environment. So I think it is about trying to match up personality to brand.
And also talk group rather than specific brand and job specific. So when you put Launchpad into your process, what was what was your main motivation?
If I'm being completely honest.
No.
It was time saving, streamlining the process. We had a resourcing assistant that was spending all day, every day doing telephone interviews. and I would get bored walking past her, listening to her ask the question, so why do you want to work for Arcadia? And it's a boring job. I don't think the candidates were benefiting from it. We introduced Launchpad, and there's a bit of an excitement, there's a buzz in the office. The CEO walks past our office, what's that, who's that on the screen? And I think it is just a better way to improve the recruitment process and streamline it.
So it was quite selfish. It was about creating your team's efficiency.
It was, but then for the external world, I think it's quite a nice story, because I think when we started it, nearly 3 years ago, we were one of the first retailers to be doing it. So it almost felt like we were the pioneers, and also sitting in group. We've now found that the brands are coming to us going, so how does this video interviewing work? Can we get on board? And we're now using it not just for graduate roles.
So that was the first objective, but what's been the sort of peripheral value that you found? And we were talking about this recently.
Yeah, so...
She says, feeding you the answer.
I think... brand fit, we've talked about that. When you're watching a video, you get a very good snapshot as to what someone's all about, and I think the strengths, where they get their energy from, so that when they come in for an assessment, you can put them with a recruiter that is facing off to that brand, and I think that then streamlines it. Then if you've got someone from that brand, you can go, we've got this video of this amazing person, definitely a top man fit. Can you get a merchandiser to sit in on the interview? Again, streamlining the process. You're not always going to be able to grab a merchandiser or a buyer off the floor, but when you can, I think it's a really good idea.
So it's that brand fit has been super useful,
definitely.
Because otherwise you can't.
And it's not all about what somebody looks like and what clothes they're wearing. It's where they get their energy, and I think we'll be chatting to you later. Where they get their energy from. And you can just hear it in their voice and their personality. Yeah,
absolutely. So what's been the most challenging thing? It's great having that concept, bright and shiny thing. We talked about innovation versus sort of evolution. So what's been the most challenging thing to sort of reshape people's thinking? You give them access to your candidates where you're measuring against job fit and brand fit and capability, and they're measuring against something different. So how have you...
Yeah, I think for us we're slightly different because we control a lot of the first stage video interviews. So if I think about our finance graduate scheme, we shortlist the videos, and then the finance managers and even some of the finance directors, they love to get involved in the graduate hiring. They'll sit in and they'll watch the shortlisted videos. And I think sometimes you really do need to pull them back to say, we've scored them, and that's I think an important thing. We've scored them against a matrix system, so you need to sit there and watch the full video, because I think sometimes managers are very quick to go, no, I don't like that, next one, and it's really been quite disciplined to say there's a reason we put them in front of you, give them a go. Just like if you were doing a face-to-face interview, you wouldn't after one question go, right, see you later, don't like the answer, let's move on to the next candidate.
It's remarkably interesting to see how the business try and turn this technology into the Tinder of the recruitment world.
Oh gosh, John, love heart, X, moving on.
So really guiding them through that whole change and change of thinking has been a big part that possibly when you started you hadn't expected. That whole re-education, they'd get the the depth of it, but
no.
So still on that journey. What you've blended technologies together, nice and neat, one process. It's going to work beautifully.
Is that how it went? I think for us we've got an ATS that's quite legacy, and I won't go into the complexities of Arcadia and why we can't just switch a system like that. So I think initially it was using Launchpad and our ATS independently. I think we have been fortunate to integrate them. Could it be better? Yes, but I think as it is now, it's working well. We can, move candidates through the process via Launchpad, and that then feeds into our ATS. So, from a candidate's point of view, it is seamless.
Yeah, and that you can always go backwards into Launchpad rather than just depending on your
exactly,
your ATS.
And even a report that I asked for from Adam last night. How many videos were watched or how many were incomplete, and it's good to have all of that information in a snap point.
So bit of advice then around the table. Bright shiny idea, you get the business in concept agreeing with it, and then you go, right, let's begin. How can you avoid some of the pitfalls of of it being quite a monumental shift?
Yeah, I think for volume recruitment, I can't describe the benefits more. It is brilliant. I think the one thing to be careful of is when you're headhunting candidates and approaching candidates that are that sort of 50% not sure whether they're wanting to move on. You still need to have that telephone conversation, that coffee, that warming introduction before you send them a link and say, can you complete a video interview? I know it sounds quite simple, but you'd be surprised. People just think, start boshing out these video links and people will complete them. I mean, we've got a very, I was looking at our stats, 90% and 80% hit rate for people completing video interviews, which I think is great. But I think that's because we send our message out via social media, corporate website, careers fairs, events. So we're getting our message in the market and we're telling people that our process is video interviewing. So when they receive the link, it's not a shock. I think that would be probably my best advice to warn people that it's coming.
So questions out to you guys. Deborah said that she'll be honest. Ask away.
Gosh, pretty quick, aren't I? Yeah.
Really fast.
Yeah, go.
Talk mainly about recruiting graduates.
Yes.
Do you use Launchpad for any more senior?
Yeah, so
hires?
it's interesting. I caught up with Kirsty last week, and our CEO is looking for an EA to cover a mat leave. And one of the girls in HR, I think she has seen every EA in London. I'm not exaggerating. Every single day, girls parading in and out of the office. And I think with an EA and with someone so senior, there really needs to be that connection, and they need to be able to do the job, but there needs to be that connection. So, they basically are back to square one, and I've said you need to do video interviewing, and they are. So, so at the moment, they're going through that process. We're trialling it for receptionists because, again, it's not high volume, but we were finding we were doing so many interviews where on paper, people were great, on the telephone they're great, but you get them in and then for whatever reason, they're just not a good fit for us. Design, so more the creative roles, we've started doing it there. So I think you really can do it for all spectrums. I think it's just making sure that people are receptive and ready for it.
Well, that was my thought really. I wondered whether the kind of willingness to engage with it is the same at that more senior level.
Because I think, if I'm being honest with myself, if I was going for a job and someone said, you've got to do a video interview, I think it's how they've positioned that. If it was just sort of out of the blue, can you do one? I'd be like, I'm not quite sure. But if it's been part of the process and it's sort of been drummed in from the get-go, from when you've been given the spec, I think I'd be quite receptive.
Yeah.
The positioning and the point in the process shifts dramatically to almost being a final stage. Yeah. And it's interesting with the EA role, which is basically gatekeeper to the boss of Arcadia. This is a major group. Thanks for being here.
That's okay.
That they almost needed to go through the pain of trying to do it the traditional way, and then found that even though they had this roll call of honour, they still weren't fitting. We had the head honcho meeting people and rejecting them, which is sort of the biggest faux pas you could possibly have. So it's been a bit of an education piece, but they also needed to use it closer to final stage, where the candidate is being told they're going to meet the chairman. This isn't just a cursory screening stage with a junior recruiter, otherwise why would they?
Absolutely. We started using it for kind of junior-ish sales roles, field sales roles, so people with some experience where you can't judge them from the CV very easily. And initially we thought this is going to save the recruitment team loads of time, but actually I don't think it necessarily does, because you still need to talk to people and get them to buy into using it.
Absolutely.
But it does save you time with the line managers, because they're only going to see one or
and
two
I think
people
that's
rather
the
than
key.
five.
It's and you'd be
that quality funnel.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would be lovely to think that we'll put this little plug in and then go back and have a coffee and strategise.
Cocktail time.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it on auto reply.
Yeah, totally. I'd like to say I can do that for you, but it's all about being in context. Anything else?
It's exciting the amount of engagement you get as well at the assessment centre stage. So, you can sort of share with the assessors the videos that are coming of the people, and they're almost like before candidates have even turned up, having those conversations of, I'm having him in finance, no, he's going into...
And they do at the finance, when they're screening them, they're like, yep, she'll be great for our team, she'll be great for our team. And when they're uncertain, being able to go back to the video and going, right, this is the reason we put her into the AC. Why are we deliberating over whether we should hire her? So the
strongest metrics that we like to evidence is speed of hire, actually. Yes, getting more right fit candidates in the room, but really that speed. And often the blockage isn't what you guys are doing, it's the business. Making a decision, understanding the sense of urgency with a candidate you've spent a long, long time getting to the point of acceptance to enter your process. That's the point where it becomes really useful currency.
Deborah, can I ask, when you were getting the buy-in from your stakeholders, in my industry or the company I'm with, it's a different generation at the top of the tree than actually a lot of the people that we're bringing into the business. And I think there's a feeling at the moment, as I've been talking about video recruiting, that it'll turn candidates off. That when are they going to have the time? And I'm trying to tell them that actually we're in a generation Y is very different. They could be sitting on the bus on the way home, cracking a video together. Like from their smartphone or.
I think it depends on what part of the process. So I think the most similar thing to that is our finance scheme. So all of our senior finance guys, although they're not super old, they're a lot older than the grads that we're bringing in.
They're 26.
And they, gosh, don't laugh at Arcadia. Honestly, I'm ancient. I think for them, it's the result. So I think before we were doing like Skype and FaceTime and telephone, we trialled so many different things. But the hit rate when it comes to the AC, because they've been part, and I think the engagement and getting them to review the CV. So when it's not the CVs, the video interviews. So we get it down to about 25 and they watch them. And so when they come into the AC, they feel like they already know the candidates, and they are really bought into the process. So for us, it wasn't a massive, because they could see the results, and I think we tried and tested it in a few different areas.
I think our CEO at the moment is thinking that he's going to miss out on great candidates because he's seeing it as a block.
Yeah, but then my question would be, if someone really can't be bothered to do a 5-minute video, do you want these people in your company?
So we do a lot of sort of scenario planning to demonstrate such things. So looking at the talent pool and where it lies globally, and then shutting off those that could possibly respond because they're in another time zone is an interesting scenario actually to present, but also reassuring them that there's an opt-out route. And that if a candidate really believes that technology is not something they're comfortable with, we can still include them in the process. What you tend to find, actually, in this day and age, every candidate should be capable.
I know that the candidates are into it. It's convincing the stakeholders.
But at least your stakeholders feel that there's not this sort of hidden group that are drifting off because they're cheesed off and hate your process.
Do you have a role that you could trial it with?
Yeah,
a bit of a pilot.
This is the other thing as well. Our roles can vary from senior executives to room attendants. We have a big English language barrier as well, which can come across. Although we've thought about asking completely non-work related questions, very general conversational questions, just to see if that spirit's there, that cultural fit and attitude. There is. I haven't got to that stage yet. I will. I will get there. It's just getting the buy-in first. I don't want to start something that's 80% there.
And reassuring the business that it's not one size fits all, and that for even a precise role, the process may be redefined, or actually looking at whether it's a recorded interview or actually is it straight to a live interaction, maybe more genuine. Like I say, one size doesn't fit all. It's really getting to the chance for that candidate to articulate fit sooner.
We're using it in very different ways because the business has such unique cultures within the business.
Exactly.
So it's really flexible too.
Thank you. And if you actually step back and look at your recruitment process for different roles, you adjust it naturally, and so your technologies and your different techniques should adjust. Where it's also really compelling, we do a lot of work together because actually the combination of video and strengths is a very positive experience. So the Microsoft case study that we whipped through, where we said actually we've got equal numbers of girls and boys, well, the process is far more engaging for both genders. It's easier for them to articulate why they're right fit, and so the natural result is a rebalance. That's really powerful because actually there are other processes that girls are less comfortable with. Give me a logical reasoning test where there's a choice, and I'll sit and chew over that for hours. And then think about what the other person really wants me to say. So. Splendid, Deborah, thank you. That wasn't too much of a white knuckle ride. And just a round of applause for Deborah.